Hello everyone, this is Dan from Guitar from the Heart. And today I wanted to take the time to just put together a quick lesson that I think will be helpful to growing musicians. This is a really important topic, the harmonized major scale, whether you're a guitar player, piano player, bass player, whatever player. Doesn't matter what you play, pretty much all of the music that we normally would listen to comes from this concept of the harmonized major scale or from the major scale. And I've done a couple of videos about this. You can go through my channel and check those out. But today I wanted to kind of like go into more detail with different scenarios, different keys and whatnot. So a lot of times when this is taught, we always start, whenever somebody starts talking about music theory, they usually draw out the key of C. And this is for pretty obvious reasons. There's no sharps and there are no flats in the key of C. Key of C therefore has no accidentals because sharps and flats are called accidentals. This makes it easier to kind of practice and to teach and to learn by drawing from this key of C. And we're taught that the key of C comes from the way the major scale is built out is there are intervals from each note to the next, right? So going from the C note to the D note is what we call a whole step. And then going from D to E is a whole step. And just because there's no sharp or flat in between E and F, there's no E sharp, okay? There's no F flat, okay? That is a half step. Here's a whole step. From G to A is a whole step, A to B is a whole step, and B to C is a half step. All right, and then we have basically this pattern: whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And this is a formula that's important to know, basically, to be able to find the notes that are in any given key. So, okay, we pretty much all know the notes that are in the key of C as soon as we can kind of go to a piano and play Mary Had a Little Lamb and go all the way up the scale, right? We go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, right, on the piano, on the white keys. But then it becomes complicated when we have to like start to deal with other key signatures that have sharps and flats. So what I wanted to do today is kind of show how we can find the different key, what notes are in each key. And then let me come back over here. We went further to say that using the notes in a given key, we can get the harmonized major scale. And how do we do this? Well, if we call this the first note, and we number each note, and this might be kind of a little bit of a longer lesson today, guys, but if you don't already have this stuff down pat, I think it'll be valuable to you. Trying to share my time with you so that you can get something out of this. Okay, so we assigned numbers to each note in the key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That makes this the first note, second note, blah, blah, blah. Now, what we can do is we can create chords that are in this same key of C by doing what's called stacking thirds. So if we look at this note, this is the first note of that chord, or the root note, and then we can skip one and we use this note, skip one, use this note. So from C to E is a third, from C to D is a second, and this is another second from D to E. But counting from here, from the reference points of C, this is the first note, this is the second note, this is the third, right? So that's why we call it a third. Going from E, that's the second, and that's the third, so another third. So we go from C to E by getting a third, and we stack another third on top of that, and we get C, E, G. So this C becomes C, E, G. And this is what we call the one chord. Capital Roman numeral. There are different ways that people do it. This is the way I learned. And that's our one chord. How do we get our second chord? Well, what we do is, using this note as our reference point, this is going to be our new root note from that, for that chord. Okay? This is our one for that chord, and we're going to stack thirds. So our first note for this chord is going to be D. We're going to skip that, that's a second away, and this is a third. So the third is F. Right? And now from the F, we're going to do another third. 1, 2, 3. Right? Counting one, F is the 1, 1, 2, 3. The third of F is A. So using, if you can just visualize, right? And we just blank these out. D to F is a third, and then from F to A is a third. That's our chord. And our next chord is gonna be, we can keep doing that, right? And we can kind of get, okay, these are gonna be the notes for the E chord, for the F chord, right? And for the G chord, G to B is a third, and then, well, guess what the next note is going to be? We're going to go back around and it's going to go to D. We can get all the notes for all the chords. And since if you practice your chords a little bit, you'll know that the D major chord has an F sharp, because technically it's derived from the key of G or from the key of D, other keys. But it always has an F sharp, right? So when we made the third a natural F, that's essentially from the perspective of a D major chord. We flattened the third, so that's 1 flat 3 5 for that chord, which makes this a minor chord. But that's a topic for another day. So I'm just gonna write all the notes here. So E, skip F, G is a third, skip A, B is a third. And that gives us our 3 chord. This is going to be F, skip G, A, skip B, C. That's a major chord because the notes that are in it correspond to an F major chord. This happens to be a G major. If you look into it, G, B, D. This ends up being an A minor chord. A, C, E, and an A major chord to C is C sharp. This is a C with no C sharp, a C, E. That makes it a minor chord. This works out to be a diminished chord. The 7 is a diminished chord, which means it has a flat 3 and a flat 5 when you compare it to the B major chord. And then this is going to be a major chord again. So that's pretty much all how the harmonized major scale is built out. Again, one more time. Key of C, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm going really slow, guys, I know. I'm trying to make it where it's quite easy to grasp. We're going to do C, third of that is E, third of that is G. That gives us our 1 chord. Right? These are the degrees of the scale. For the 2 chord, we're going to look at the 2 note. 2 thirds. D, skip, that's the second from D. Third, right? D, F. A third from F. A. And it's minor. For E, the first two notes are going to be E and G. Skip a third, B, right? That gives us a minor chord. F, F, that's the third, another third. F, A, C, that's our 4 chord, and it's going to be major. G, let's just keep kind of writing this out to help ourselves, all right? We're up to G, third from G, B, third from B, D, G, B, D. That's a major chord. A, A, C, E, minor, the 6 is minor, and then starting with B, B, D, F. And just for cross-referencing here, a B major chord is usually B, D sharp, F sharp. Okay, so to get from the B major chord to this diminished chord, we have to flatten the third and the fifth. And that's why this has a 1 flat 3, flat 5 formula. The minors here, these minors and this minor here, all these three, the 2, the 3, and the 6, they have 1 flat 3, 5 to build out the chord. And majors have just 1, 3, 5. Because from the major scale, we just take the 1, the 3, and the 5. Okay? We get these flat 3s and flat 5 from just comparing to the regular major chord. And we have as a general rule that the 1, the 4, and the 5, the 1, the 4, and the 5 are major. The 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor. And the 7 is diminished. Okay, very important. If you can memorize that, listen, you get a lot of mileage out of that. But that's kind of like what I want to go into today. The 1, the 4, and the 5 are major, the 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor, and the 7 is diminished. If you can memorize that, I just memorize it kind of like I ignore the 7, not use it as often, until you get into more advanced stuff. I just kind of say, well, I just memorized the 1 and 4 and the 5. Everybody knows the 1, 4, 5 progression, right? G, C, D, or whatever. If you're in the key of C, C, F, G. Everybody knows some songs that are in a 1, 4, 5. You know some songs that are like that, even if you can't play them, even if you don't know how to play them, you know them by ear. You recognize what they sound like. And when you start to memorize what a 1, 4, 5 sounds like, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know a lot of songs that have that. If you are a musician that's been playing a little while and you know what 1, 4, 5 is, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you could just memorize 1, 4, 5, you pretty much got it made. You can memorize how this thing works because 1, 4, 5 are major. Everything else is minor except for the 7, which is diminished. Alright? 1, 4, 5 are major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and the 7 is diminished. But the diminished is just like a minor 2, but just has a flat 5. Okay? And I'm gonna not risk repeating myself there another time. I think that's okay. If you didn't get it, you can watch back. Now I want to take the time to go into some different keys, which is where this information starts to become really valuable. So like, let's go to another familiar key. Familiar for most people, for most guitarists. key of G. Now I just know by memory that in the key of G, the F happens to be sharp. You can find that by starting on a G note and doing whole, whole, half, because this is going to be whole, whole in every major scale. In every key that's a major key, you're going to have whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you start with G, you can even do this, practice this on paper, but to go from G to A, you know it's going to be G, G sharp, A sharp, B, right, to get another whole step. This half step, B, C, there's no B sharp or C flat, right? So between B and C and E and F, this is another really important thing to memorize. Between, well, this is not in the key, right, key signature to do it to show it, but between B and C and E and F, there's only half steps, right? There's no sharps or flats in between them, okay? So to go from B to C is a half step, but to go from C to D, we know it, right? We use it in the formula, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half. We know, okay, we did whole, whole, half. Now to go from C to D, we need a whole step. C, C sharp, D. D to E, D, D sharp, E. E to F sharp, but we need a whole step to follow the major scale formula. It's going to be E, F is a half step, and another half step is F sharp. And then from F sharp to G is a half step, okay? So you can build out any scale using this kind of system. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, so I only have about 5 more minutes that I can before I have to go, but I'm going to try to pack as much as I can into here. So I'm going to start to move a little more quickly. Those are all the basics, and that's why I took forever to go through now, because I want to make sure, I mean, you know where this stuff is coming from. This is how you get the keys. You know that B and C and E and F don't have but a half step between them. You know how to get each chord by stacking thirds, right? So that's pretty much it. Use whole, half, whole, 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 half to get each scale. And now we can start to derive chords from each thing. And this is what I want to practice doing today, getting the chords that are in each key. So for the one, I'm going to start to move quickly now, all right? Since I've explained it, 1, 3, 5, G, B, D, G major, A, C, E, it's an A minor chord, B, D, F sharp. Remember, major, B major has B, D sharp, F sharp, so that's minor. Going for C, it's going to be a C chord. Right. And you can go into the hairy details. You can go into the hairy details and analyze it and be like, okay, that's a B minor because it doesn't have a D sharp. That's an F sharp diminished because F sharp major has these notes and we flattened a 3 and a 5, whatever, right? But again, all you really need to know, 1, 4, 5 major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and this one is the oddball out, and the 1 again is major. Once you know what notes are in a major scale, you can just use that formula. So now let's do this to start to move a little quicker. Sorry about that. D, E. These are the notes that are in the key of D. An excellent way to memorize the accidentals is another thing called circle of fifths, but I'm not going to go into that today. So again, let's use this 1, 4, and 5 are major capitals, and the lowercase Roman numerals are minor. Then we have our diminished chord, and we can just kind of fill in here. The 1 is major, D major. The 4, Let's label these, which is actually 1, right? The 4 is going to be G. We have a G major, the 5 is A. The 2 is going to be E minor. The 3 is going to be F sharp minor. The 6 is going to be B minor. And the 7 is going to be C sharp diminished. Diminished, we use a little degree sign. Okay? And that's how we get the notes that are in the key of D. You get these notes by starting with a D note and doing whole step, half step, whole, half. Right, guys, this is the major scale. This is the major scale. Just excuse me 1 minute, I have to look at the time. Okay. So this is the major scale, pretty much in a nutshell, how you get the major scale and then how you harmonize it and how you can find what notes are in any given key. So I'm going to try to keep going as long as I can here. A, B, this is the key of A. These are the notes that are in the key of A. And if we label them, 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, right? 1, 4, 5, and then everything else. And then we can say, oh, a major chord. Oh, a key of A has it has a D major chord and it has an E major chord. The minor chords are going to be 2, 3, and 6, which are B, C sharp, and F sharp. These are all minor. And then the G sharp, which is the 7, is going to be diminished. Let's do a completely different key. And we're gonna, and I encourage you to take the time to do this. To just practice this on your own. Take a piece of paper just like this and write out the notes. This is going to be invaluable for you. If you do it enough, you could be a lot better than me because you'll actually start to memorize every single key. But let's do a different key. Let's do like E flat major. I do not happen to know the notes that are in E flat by heart. But I do know because it's in E flat, we're going to use flats instead of these sharps. Right? So if E flat, we know because we're using E that we're going to use every letter. When you're writing them out, don't do like G and another G sharp or something like that. Always E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, right? This is going to be flat. And now we're going to do a whole step to figure out what this note is. So E flat to E is a half step, to F is a whole step. So this is good. The F is going to be natural. A whole step from F to G, does that look right? Yeah, there's a whole step from F to G. And a half step from G to A is a whole step. So in order to make this a half step, what do? We flatten to A. So from G to A flat, that's a half step. That's good. Now whole step. A flat to A is a half step, right? A flat to A is a half step. From A to B is another whole step. That's 1.5 steps. But if we do this, that'll make it a good distance. Maybe I'll do another video on this with these weird key signature, with more keys. But for now, this is what I can do for today. And you can take this and work with it for now. But this is a whole step now from A flat to B flat. And then we need another whole step. B flat to B is a half step. B to C is another half step. That's a whole step. That's good. C to D is a whole step. And then a half step again gives us the E flat. So this is how we can derive the notes. All right? If we don't have it memorized. Now, which I don't. So I know now that key of E flat major has E flat, A flat, B flat as the notes. But now I'm going to use the same thing. Excuse me there. 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, and 7. So these are going to be minors. These are going to be majors, and this is diminished. And I just basically use the notes that are derived from each degree by stacking thirds. We come with E flat major. The 4 is A flat major, and the 5 is B flat major. And then the 2 is going to be F minor. 3 is going to be G minor, and the 6 is going to be C minor, and then the 7 is going to be D diminished. And now we have the notes we can use to make a 1-4-5 progression if we want to add in some minor chords. Those are the notes we have there, and we want to use the 7th chord as the diminished chord. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you find this helpful. If you do find it helpful, I'd appreciate it if you let me know in the comments section. If you like this kind of video, you're welcome to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be trying to do whatever I feel is going to help guitar players, because this is a guitar channel, but I'm really just a musician, you know, who uses the guitar to try to express myself, and I'm trying to learn other instruments as well. And I believe that this is really helpful information, at least in my sight. Like, this is like the bread and butter of what makes us able to get started on a path of being able to do what we love. So for now, take care and have fun with that. Thanks for watching.